For 900 years, temples were burnt. For 900 years, idols were broken. For 900 years, the pitiful cries of women and children echoed through Bharat's sacred lands. But in the midst of this darkness and chaos, one 15-year-old boy stood up and rose and said, "No more." This is the story of that boy. Namaste. Welcome to this new episode in this series of videos that we have planned to explain to you the detailed stories of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. In the previous episode, we saw how the young Shivaji along with his mother Jijamata and Dadoji Kondev arrive in Pune. Pune, which had become a land of ruins and lost pride. Together, the trio started slowly and steadily rebuilding this sacred city of Pune and reclaiming the land, the forts, and most importantly, hope of the local people. But soon, with the passing away of Dadoji Kondev, a massive responsibility fell on the young shoulders of 15-year-old Shivaji. And he stood there alone with his mother at crossroads of history. Now picture this, a broken land, a community robbed of its courage, its dignity, and its faith. A society shattered by centuries of foreign rule, constantly living under the fear of swords, conversions, kidnapping, and destruction. And in the midst of this darkness, Shivaji enters. But could he just walk in and start saying, "Don't worry, I am here, I will protect you, no one will touch your women, no one will destroy your temples, no one will break your idols, no one will force you to convert"? Can he simply walk in and say that? Was it that easy? The answer to this, my dear friends, is a painful and loud no. The soil of Maharashtra was still soaked wet with the blood of massacred Hindus. The echoes of past atrocities had not yet faded. The terrors of temple desecration, mass killing, kidnapping of women, forceful conversions still haunted every house and every village of Maharashtra at that time. In today's episode, I will take you deeper. Let's revisit the dark chapters of Islamic invasions, what our people endured, what all they lost, and how those flames of suffering eventually gave birth to the fire of rebellion. Because only when you understand their pain is when you can truly appreciate Shivaji's sankalp, divine sankalp to drive away these tyrants and foreign invaders out of our soil and create an independent Hindavi Swarajya. So stay with me. This is not just ordinary history. This is our story. This is our Itihaas. This is the soul of India. In one previous episode, I told to you few atrocities of Mahmud of Ghazni. But after Mahmud of Ghazni left, the nightmare did not end. On the contrary, it just had begun. As I told you, he inspired generations and generations to do the same, and in fact with more cruelty. Who came next? Mohammad Gori. 1192, you remember? He came, he defeated Prithviraj Chauhan, took over Ajmer, took over Delhi. What he did next would define centuries of suffering. And what I'm going to tell you, I am not relying on any second-hand stories or some nationalistic retelling. No. In fact, I'm going to read out to you from the writings of a contemporary historian. Contemporary means a person who was present at the time of Ghori. A Persian historian, a Persian writer who was in fact the official court chronicler of Mohammad Gori and his successor Qutubuddin Aibak, who then eventually founded the Delhi Sultanat. The name of this Persian writer, Hasan Nizami. In his famous book Tajul Masir, he writes, I'll read it for you. So this is now about Ajmer. Listen. While the Sultan remained at Ajmer, he destroyed the pillars and foundations of the idol temples and built in their stead mosques and colleges and precepts of Islam, and the customs of the law were divulged and established. What did you understand? These were not just mere temples, they were the soul of India. And one after another, these sacred places were torn down, desecrated and replaced. not just by mere foreign architecture but by foreign ideology, which was determined to erase the very essence of the civilization of India at that time. This was not just a mere conquest, it was a cultural genocide. 1193, that is just 1 year after Ajmer, after killing Prithviraj Chauhan, Mohammad Gori marches to Kannauj, a proud and ancient city ruled by King Jayachandra. Once again, Ghori's mercenaries struck with brutal force. King Jayachandra was defeated. And what followed was by then the normal routine of what these invaders used to do post-victory. Massacre of unarmed civilians, entire villages burned, properties seized, temples broken and looted, women and children kidnapped and taken away. No mercy, no remorse, normal routine. The atrocities of Mohammad Gori are countless. I am just naming a few. Next, he sets his eyes on the very sacred city of Varanasi, which is also known as Banaras, which is also anciently known as Kashi, the abode of Lord Shiva. And again, don't take my word for it. Ghori's own court chronicler Hassan Nizami is detailing all this, and that too with pride, shameless pride. What happened at Varanasi? Hassan Nizami is celebrating through his writings. I'll read it out from his book. He says, in Banaras, which is the center of the country of Hind, they destroyed 1,000 temples and raised mosques on their foundations. Think about it. 1,000 temples, not ordinary buildings but houses of prayer, destroyed systematically. Another contemporary historian of that time, Ibn al-Athir, writes in his book Kamil ut Tawarik about what happened at Varanasi. Ghori's invasion of Varanasi he is writing. He was present at that time. He writes, the slaughter of Hindus at Varanasi was immense. None were spared except women and children, and the carnage of men went on till the earth was weary. Weary means tired. Can you imagine the pain? And what is this modus operandi? Why always spare the women and children? The answer is chilling but simple. Children were seen as blank slates, easy to brainwash, convert and then raise them as powerful tools of the new regime. And what about women? They were unfortunately simply seen as the spoils of war, enslaved, humiliated and distributed amongst the soldiers for personal pleasure, or sold in the markets across Central Asia in the Islamic world. This was not a mere conquest, it was a systematic cultural annihilation. Even sacred Buddhist centers like Sultanat were razed to ground by Ghori's men. None were spared. Not a pillar left, not a statue spared. While Ghori was tearing through the heartland of India, his trusted general Qutubuddin Aibak was laying the foundations of a new regime, the Delhi Sultanat. And right from the start, this Sultanat was drenched in blood. I'll tell you few stories relating to Qutubuddin Ibak. 1193, this year, there was a Hindu revolt against the Delhi Sultanat in this place called Kol, which is present-day Aligarh. But this Hindu revolt was crushed brutally by Qutubuddin Aibak's men. Hassan Nizami, the official court chronicler I've been talking to you about, writes with twisted joy. See what he's writing about what happened in Aligarh. He writes, Qutubuddin Aibak raised 3 bastions as high as heaven with their heads. Bastions means walls. Okay, I'll repeat, listen carefully. Qutubuddin Aibak raised 3 bastions as high as heaven with their heads, and their carcasses became food for beasts of prey. Carcasses means bodies. He continues, the tract was freed from idols and idol worship, and the foundations of infidelism were destroyed. Infidelism, you read it as if he's talking about Hinduism. He's saying the foundations of infidelism were destroyed. This was the cruel tone of their historians. No sign of regret, no sign of sorrow, in fact signs of celebration. This Aligarh event happened in 1193. Next year, 1194, Qutubuddin Aibak carried out one of the most ghastly attacks on Sanatan Dharma in this year. You know what he did? In one shot, he destroyed 27 temples in Delhi. But that was not enough. He took the debris, the broken stones of the sacred idols, the carved and wonderful pillars of the broken temples, and used all of this material and built a mosque over this. That mosque stands to this day in Delhi. The name of that mosque, Quwwatul Islam Mosque. Quwwatul Islam means the might of Islam. Hasan Nizami again writes proudly about this event. He says, Kutubuddin Ibak adorned it with stones and gold obtained from the temples which had been demolished by elephants. Which means Kutubuddin Aibak had used elephants to destroy these 27 temples in Delhi. This was psychological warfare. This was a message to the Hindus then. Your gods are shattered, your temples are destroyed, and your faith lies buried under our boots. Then 1196, Qutubuddin Aibak marches to Gujarat. The capital of Gujarat then was named as Anahilwara Patan. Patan, this place is still there in Gujarat. The local army was defeated, the king fled away. Hasan Nizami writes about this also. And what followed is described with cold calculation by Hasan Nizami. He says, 50,000 infidels means Hindus in this context, 50,000 infidels were dispatched to hell by the sword, and more than 20,000 slaves and cattle beyond all calculation fell into the hands of the victors. Gujarat, a land of wealth, trade and learning, was stripped bare. But Qutubuddin Aibak was not satisfied. On his way back to Ajmer, he finds out that there is one Sanskrit college of learning, a proper center of learning, a center of dharma. He couldn't tolerate it. He razed it to the ground. And on this broken architecture, he builds a mosque. And he names this place as Adhai Din Ka Jhopda. Now why this name, Adhai Din Ka Jhopda? This because this whole process of desecrating that college and building a mosque on top of that rubble, the entire process got completed in 2.5 days. Adhai Din means 2.5 days. It was a powerful sign by Qutubuddin Aibak to everyone. It took me only 2.5 days to destroy your knowledge center. This is not an ordinary tale of war. It's a tale of destruction by design. The message to the locals was clear: submit or get annihilated. And if all of this bloodshed was not enough, the real storm was now about to come. In the late 13th century, a dynasty came to power in India that redefined what tyranny stands for: the Khiljis.